All right, so I figured this was a good follow-up to the Error 53 video that I did. A lot of people who've been commenting, particularly on this Mac Rumors thread, have been going on and on about independent repair shops and how independent repair shops are not going to provide the best experience. Why would you even take your, well, well, somebody said, why would you even take your Ferrari to Jose around the block rather than going to the Ferrari dealer? And there was this one really great comment that I thumbed up, which was, because Jose knows more about your Ferrari than the dealer does, which again, in my experience when it comes to Apple products, I mean, find somebody at the Genius Bar that knows their motherboards better than I know their motherboards, and I will sign my store lease over to them. Like, I will transfer it happily because I know that that doesn't exist. But that's another argument. The real crux of the argument was that you should go to the Apple Store because the Apple Store will provide you with a better customer experience. I feel like that's worth discussing, and I also feel like it's worth mentioning the experience that I had with somebody about a week ago who had a liquid damage machine. So one of the things that I'll do that I described in the past video is if I don't feel like I'm a good value for the money, I will actually tell you to go elsewhere, even if you came in the door and you're willing to spend money here. And when it comes to iPhone 6 and 6S screen repair, call me crazy. If Apple will do it for $109, I'm not going to do glass-only replacements in a store where I take the glass off of your broken, dropped, fucked up screen and put a new glass on there for the same price that Apple will give you for a new screen. I'm not going to buy a refurbished screen for 50 to 70 bucks that sucks and put it in your phone when, again, Apple will put in a new one for 109. Not going to do that. I will happily tell customers when I think there's a better option elsewhere, even if it means that I'm not making money. I need to feel good about what I'm doing. I need to feel like I'm providing a good service, a good value. And with board repair, I do feel that way because very often Apple will give people a flat rate of $750 to $1250 to do something when my parts cost is 5, 10, 30 bucks, and I know that what I do is going to last, and we can charge $200 to $400, and all is nice. Again, you'll see the videos that I've done on this channel where we do this on a regular basis, and it ends well for everybody involved. Now, this person came in, and they had a MacBook Air. They had received a quote of $750 from Apple. I open it up. Their board is dead, and this is not a board that I'm going to be repairing. The battery is bad, the keyboard is bad, the trackpad is bad, the trackpad cable is bad, the DC-in board is bad, the DC-in board flex cable is bad. The only thing that's actually good on this machine is potentially the screen and the SSD. It boots up in another computer without error. It had no corrosion on it, and the SSD on this machine is encased in underfill, so even if it did get a little bit of liquid on it, it's not really going to affect it that much at all. So I tell the customer, here's the list of things we would have to replace. Here's the cost. Here's what Apple's going to charge you to replace everything. See how that costs less money and you're also going to be getting new stuff put in there? Go to Apple. And she's not exactly the happiest about the fact that the 750 in her specific case is actually a good deal. Not exactly a happy camper there, but whatever. She goes ahead with it and she goes to the Apple Store. Now the problem here is that they said that we cannot recover your data. We don't offer data recovery. And I thought that that was kind of strange because what do you mean recovery? This SSD has no errors on it. You can boot it in 7 seconds inside of another machine. It has no corrosion on it. I understand if under your flat rate repair policy, I totally get it if you don't want to potentially put that drive in and have to deal with the failure that results from it. But why call it recovery? Why call it data recovery when you're not recovering anything because that drive works? Why not simply use tools at the store to copy the data from one drive to the other drive? Then she says, okay, can you give me the drive? And they go, well, no. And I thought that was really, really weird. And it's at this point that she calls me and she explains everything. And she comes by and I say, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to take out your drive. Here it is. You have them fix the computer. Then once they're done with whatever they do, you bring it back here and I'll plug the drive in. And you may think, okay, well, it's that person's fault that they didn't back up their data. It's their fault that they didn't back up their data. And I'll go back to the question that I asked in the previous video, which is, again, raise your hand if you've never ever done something irresponsible or stupid over the course of your life. Again, how many of you are raising your hand right now? And here's the thing when it comes to good service. Here's the thing when it comes to loyalty. when you get kicked in the balls, are you going to support somebody that just like stabs you in the balls right after you got kicked for no reason? Or are you going to support somebody who helps you, picks you up, dusts you off, and asks if there's anything they can do to help you out? That's really what it comes down to. Because again, the customer did something stupid. They spilled shit on their computer. That's stupid. We established that. Then they did something further stupid by not backing it up. Again, that is also stupid. So they are careless in how they treat their $1,200 product, and they also don't back up the important data on their $1,200 product. All this is dumb. But that's in the past. Like, you can't change what happened. You can only change how you deal with the catastrophe when it does happen. And when it doesn't require effort, when it requires like no effort at all, when it's literally taking data from a perfectly functioning drive and transferring it to the new one, or simply reusing this perfectly functioning drive in the fixed computer, like, again, you can argue all you want the idea that they need to back up their data, that we don't want to be responsible for it. But when there's no option for this customer other than to take a 40-minute back and forth train ride for me to simply unscrew their drive and put it in a little plastic baggie for them because they won't do that at the fucking Apple store, that's bullshit. That really is bullshit. And you can say that they don't want to be responsible for it. You can say they don't want to be liable for data. You can say they don't want to deal with transferring stuff. They don't want to deal with unplugging stuff. Then that's great. But then you can provide the argument that they also offer good service, because this is something that a monkey can do. And this is basic fucking common courtesy. We are going to fix your stuff. Hey, how about this? Just to be nice, since a lot of bad stuff happened to you and we're taking $750 of your money, just to be nice, we're not going to delete your data today. How fucking difficult would it be to do that? Not that difficult at all. But again, better service. What is better service? That's in the eye of the beholder. And in the person that waited 6 days to get an appointment at Apple, to have to then waste 40 minutes of time in the store, and then another 40 minutes going back and forth via train just so that I could remove a fucking SSD, so that they did not have their data erased by the dumbass that was doing this stuff. Yeah, like, why? Explain to me how this is a better customer experience. Explain to me how this makes any sense. It doesn't. And again, you can use the argument until you're blue in the face that people should go to the Apple store first, but I want to give you another person's perspective. This is why people don't go to the Apple store first. And if you would just, and I'm not doing this to shit on Apple. Who am I kidding? I'm kind of doing this to shit on Apple. But the point is, I'm doing this to try to improve it. You know, people will say that I'm a fanboy for Lenovo. I like Lenovo products much more than Apple products. And you'll see on this channel that I have these videos with hundreds of thousands of views where I'm just digging into Lenovo and exactly what I think of some of their dumbass design decisions where they've just butchered good machines. And here's the thing with people who are fans, or quote unquote fans, like real fans are people who are going to criticize the company that's doing something stupid so they can stop doing something stupid. Fanboys, like all the 14-year-olds that you see on the internet that'll just scream and cry one way or the other whenever you criticize a product or a company, fanboys are always going to defend a company even when they're doing something stupid. But real fans or real users are not going to sit back and just take it in the ass when a company does something really dumb. So when a company like Apple says, hey, I know you're spending almost $1,000 to get your $1,200 product fixed here. That probably would have never needed repairs at all if we had simply employed the same design tactics that Lenovo and IBM did over 12 fucking years ago. How about this? We're going to give you the courtesy of not erasing your data. That's all I'm suggesting. And I think that's pretty damn reasonable. Now, one thing to take into consideration in the service business is that we can never really focus on the past of what woulda, coulda, shoulda been done. We can only focus on how we can make the experience better for our customers. So a bad analogy here because I'm half asleep. But let's say you have a kid and every now and then he decides to run across the street. He breaks away from your hand, runs across the street when there's a red light. There should be a punishment for that, because in the real world, if that kid does that over and over again, eventually there's a chance that he gets hit by a car, and that's very bad. So if he runs across the street and doesn't get hit by a car, we should celebrate the fact that he did something stupid and did not get hit by the car. We should punish him. He should have to go to his room. He should have no video games. He should not be allowed to ride his bike for whatever amount of time. Do whatever you want to do to punish the kid, but also celebrate the fact that he wasn't hit by the car. We don't take the kid and then toss him back in the street and say, no, here's what happens when you run across the street, and then actually let a car run over him. That makes no sense. We're going to celebrate the fact that he wasn't hit by the car. Here, customer did something they weren't supposed to. They spilled water on it. I've done that before. It's a pretty stupid thing to do, and that should have its consequences of having to pay for the repair. Now, if they didn't back up their data, there should be an additional consequence or an additional punishment or an additional fee simply to cover the fact that somebody at the Genius Bar now has to transfer data, whether that's $50, $150, $500. You come up with it, but it should be an option. But at the same time, we should still celebrate the fact that that person's SSD is in perfect condition. Now, again, if the SSD is destroyed, if their hard drive is clicking, if the data is completely corrupted, I get it. Don't recover it. Send them to Drive Savers. Send them to somebody who's going to actually get their stuff back. I understand that. But if they're coming to you with a liquid damage computer and an SSD that's surrounded in underfill, that has no signs of liquid damage whatsoever, that has no issues at all, that is in perfect health, that shows 1 gigabyte per second read and write speeds, that boots up perfectly in another computer, let's celebrate that. Let's celebrate the fact that the drive is in perfect condition so that we can transfer that customer's data. We'll charge them, we'll punish them, same way that you punish the kid that runs across the street. But why are we going to go out of our way to delete data that is present? Why are we going to go out of our way to not give the customer back that drive when that drive is literally sitting there with one little screw sitting in it? It doesn't make any sense. That's the difference between people who are successful in the service business and those people who work in IT who have the same job when they're 60 that they did when they were 30, where the person who has the same job at 60 that they had when they're 30, they're always against the user. They're always insulting the user, belittling the user, saying, well, you could have this if only you had done this way, but now you can't. And I understand that. I understand that users do a lot of really stupid things, and I understand why you may be sick and tired of it. But at the same time, what makes people successful, what allows people to move up in their careers, what puts a better taste in the user's mouth is when you tell them, what you've done is bad. Here's why that's bad. Here's how much misery and nightmare there is going to be ahead to make things work properly again. However, it's totally possible. But because you've done everything this way, this is all the crap that we're going to have to go through, and this is what you're going to have to deal with as a result of it. So always make sure it's on them. You didn't back up your data. You spilled shit on here. But at the same time, if it's possible to fix their problem, fix their problem. Because people will always like the person who fixed their problem. Even if the problem that you fixed is this little, if they don't know how to fix that problem themselves and you fixed a problem that's this little, there's this crazy thing in IT where they will treat you as if you saved the world. They will treat you as if you've parted the oceans for them, and they will talk about you as if you parted the oceans for them. So what benefits you more? Having somebody who's really, really happy at the fact that you were able to save their ass, or having people who hate your guts because of their own mistakes? It's their mistake. Keep the responsibility with them. But what is the point in the world of IT and in the service business of constantly focusing on what somebody else did wrong when they're not even blaming you? Why even get into the blame game back and forth and say, well, it's their fault that they don't have their data, when their data is literally sitting on a drive right in front of you? And this really goes back to that entire Error 53 fiasco, because people will say, you need to disable the phone. This cannot be allowed to work if they change the home button. And again, it just shows that same kind of pattern, that complete lack of concern for things like data. Do you really have to make it so that nobody on God's green earth can access data on the phone because somebody changed a button? I don't know. When I say these things, and when I say that I think Apple's doing it just to be pricks sometimes, it's because of this base of experience that I have. Again, 7 years of people coming here and saying, Apple wanted to erase my data just because I was getting a screen replaced. Apple erased my data without telling me that they were going to do it when I went in for a Wi-Fi card repair. Just like stupid crap like this has been going on for a really long time. So when things like Error 53 happen, it's not just like, oh, look, out of the blue, they just made this one decision that didn't take into account user information. It's a history of this shit that's been going on for a really long time. And if people don't say anything about it, and even worse, if people are actually okay with this, then there's no reason for it to get better over time. And I would like it to get better over time, because this, again, it's just a waste. I literally sent somebody to the Apple Store to spend almost $1,000 there. And as a result of sending them there, they're now less happy with me because I was part of creating a bad experience for them. And it's just dumb. I mean, I should be able to send somebody somewhere when they're spending $750, and somebody there will actually treat them like a human being and not like a robot. But what do I know? I'm just one of those dumbass third-party service centers.